Hi, so this is Ryan from the future. Turns out my video was way too long, coming in at close on 20 minutes in the end, which is a little bit ridiculous. So we're going to cut this into two parts. The first part will be released today, and the second part tomorrow. And then now, onto the video. Good morning and welcome to day 24 of the 30-day Speaking to Camera Challenge. I'm Ryan, and today the main task, was to go and explore our emotions, to try and channel that out through everything we're saying. Connect to the joy, the sadness, the heartbreak. I mean, I suppose we're supposed to choose one, but I'm just letting it be and just seeing what comes up. So from that, we'll see where it takes us. Today, I am without a chair. I decided to try my hand at standing, see if it brought up anything new, if it decides to make me do this and sway backwards and forwards, or do anything that's a bit of an oddity and is a bit unpleasant to watch, just to create a little bit of diversity. I feel like for the past 23 days, I've been sitting in some form or other, gradually jumping around the house and finding new and interesting places to record, sometimes not so interesting. So that's that. We are also experiencing load shedding at the moment, which is just wonderful. I see the rest of the world is starting to jump on board. I see we started to make a trend with the UK, which is just brilliant. So you guys have a fun ride ahead if things continue down that same way. So I think first what I'm going to get into is today, again, is a day without notes. So we're just going to see what comes up. I think the first thing for me was the intrigue in terms of the current YouTube obsession with cutting out every single pause. Almost that unwillingness to show anything, to allow viewers' minds to wander for a single moment. And it really got me thinking about how, as a viewer, we're really engaging with that. Because if I'm looking at it, is it one that we're so terrified of any pause, so terrified of not being completely entertained 100% all the time? And what does that say about our current state of mind? That we're so unwilling to have a pause, so unwilling to have that gap where we can just be with our own thoughts, absorb it, just take all of that in. To me, it's just a point of curiosity, not necessarily something I'm going to go and pass judgment on again and say, this is bad. I'm just intrigued, actually. Is it because we're so afraid of our own thoughts that there's a lot of terror? Is it one where we're terrified of being bored? That we have nothing else going on our head? That there's too much emotion raging within? That everything else is just a band-aid to prevent us from feeling? Honestly, I don't know. I think it's something I'll probably be looking at a little bit later, once I've actually done a lot more inquiry into the subject, but it's just a point of intrigue, I suppose. So that's that. Otherwise, have you ever stood in front of a camera and been completely unsure what to say, where to go next? I suppose for most of us, we have this in social situations. We can stand before a group, have things we'd like to say, but never been quite able to communicate and phrase them. Feeling as though we're on the back foot, feeling as though we're suddenly here, gradually being pushed outside of the circle. And with each step we take back, whether this be mentally or physically, we've gradually become more and more alienated, more and more alone, left to our own devices. Sometimes, like today, when I haven't really planned anything, haven't really got these amazing thought streams coming through that can weave a nice coherent thought, that's where I stand. There have been occasions, probably many occasions, where I've started recording, got to a point several minutes in and just said, where the hell am I going? And I suppose in regular conversation this happens too. Sometimes we're not quite aware of our thoughts until we start to share them. And just allow them to spill up and then say, where did that come from? Or where was I going? Another point of curiosity. I suppose that'll be the topic for today. Points of curiosity. Ryan jumping around, having some little bits in the front, some at the back. But I'm unsure. It's also one that I feel as though I am naturally drawn to the philosophical, probably in my own thoughts on a day-to-day basis, constantly looking at those complex metaphors or analogies for life or curious ways of engaging. I'm curious, do other people see the world through similar light? Is it one where most people have that strong connection to the physicality, but don't necessarily constantly almost run these thought experiments in their head, constantly jumping back and forth in terms of what if? Why is this the way it is? And I suppose for myself, I've been doing this since I was a child. I can recall stories where my mom basically asked, with me asking, what would the world be like if there were no engineers? What would it be like if this happened, if this disappeared? Constantly trying to see, constantly trying to make sense of the world in terms of, I suppose, the purpose of very many things, and how life might be better or worse without them. And I suppose this is something I've carried forward into much of my own life. I'm looking at it. However, the more I think about it, the more I think that that's not the way most people tend to think. There's a lot of things in that sentence, which is curious. Because I think we always use our own thoughts, or our own mind, or ourselves as the reference point. We always use this as the subject by which we judge everything else in terms of, okay, you're more this than I am, more this than that. But everything is from a point of self. Again, that realm of self-awareness we spoke about before, definitely coming into it. But it also got me thinking, is it possible to fully understand someone's thoughts, or exactly where they're coming from, if you don't have that reference point in mind? You don't fully know all of their life experience and everything that's made them who they are, made them engage with the world in the way that they do. And I suppose that's where empathy comes in, trying to put yourself in that other person's shoes, but possibly never being able to fully grasp and understand it all. Today's a video of a lot of questions. And a lot of questions I don't have any answers to. Just basically a series of thought experiments.